Hi guys, and today I've got something hopefully very interesting in this package right here. And we have this interesting looking case with these clips like so, and inside of this, oh look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a genuine, truly affordable tourbillon. And oh, there we go, look at that. And that's actually taken the rear protective cover, which is again common with most watches really that you buy. So I'll just throw that to the side there, and there you can see it in person now without the plastic cover on. And I'm trying, let me just focus on this for you, I'm trying my utmost to not touch this and get mucky finger marks all over it. I feel like I should be kind of pretentious and be wearing white cotton gloves. And what we're going to do now is give this a wind and see how quickly it fires up. And then I'm going to pop it on the Timegrapher and see what kind of readings we get. Wow, look at that. That was literally, as you just saw, the tiniest turn of the crown. Now usually I find after rebuilding a watch, after servicing a watch, if it fires up under its own steam after a wind or two of the crown, then it's usually pretty good. That's based on me working on vintage watches. That was literally the tiniest turn of the crown to wind the mainspring, and it fired up straight away, which is a brilliant start, as you can see. So I'm going to give that a full wind now. Look at that, just look, isn't that a beautiful, beautiful sight? That's just incredible, isn't it? Here we are looking at the Timegrapher. The watch is on the stand. I'm going to press the go button. The lift angle is automatically, by default set to 52 degrees. We have got a VPH of 21,600, which for some reason I thought this was a high beat, 28,800 movement. I did read that somewhere, but that might have been relating to another movement, I'm not sure. But anyway, 21,600, which is perfectly adequate, and those working on Japanese watches will be familiar with that, Seikos commonly. A beat error of 0.1 milliseconds, an amplitude of around 300, and we're currently looking at plus 20, plus 17 in dial up position. I will be testing it dial up, pendant right and pendant down, because they're the three positions that are most common to me. So I'm going to move that now to pendant right and just let that stabilize. And what I'm looking for here, rather than 100% accuracy, is consistency between the positions. I'm looking for a lack of positional error. So we've got a slight increase in beat error, which is not uncommon, to 0.2 milliseconds. A decrease in amplitude, which again is not uncommon when you are side on as opposed to dial up or dial down, and a slight increase in gain there. But that's not bad. And we're now going to move that to pendant down, and again allow that to stabilize. You'll see the little blips, that's where I've moved the stand with the watch on. And this should give a very, very similar reading to the one that you've just seen for pendant right, because of course the entire escapement is moving, and it certainly appears to be so. Now I'm not overly worried about the number of seconds gain at present. This is a brand new out of the box watch, and I've had brand new watches out of the box that have performed atrociously on the Timegrapher, and like a watch that's just been serviced, it will need a little bit of running to bed itself in properly anyway, and I can always regulate the timekeeping a little later. That is looking pretty good. For a Chinese tourbillon. Now obviously if this was a Swiss tourbillon from one of the big name manufacturers, I would be expecting much more stunning results out of the box, but when you're talking about the difference between £15,000 for the current cheapest Swiss tourbillon and just a smidgen over £400 Great British pounds sterling, which equates to probably about $500 at current exchange rates in US. I'll get the details on that and make a note accordingly. I think that is pretty good going. So that's currently still pendant down. Let's move it back to dial up. And as you can see there, that's kind of settled back down into a 0.1 beat error, and it takes a little while for the readings to kind of catch up with that, but you'll see that change. Yeah, there we go. And the amplitude should increase slightly once that settles, as you've just seen there, from 259 to 289. So all in all, so far I'm very impressed. We'll have a very quick what's in the box just here. We have got a spare leather strap, which is a nice little touch, which comes in a heat sealed packet. We have got some cards, some card, and a little what looks like a receipt, which is actually a Timegrapher reading with Chinese characters, and it gives you a Timegrapher reading which presumably is of your watch, which gives you a nice kind of baseline. I actually found that this is obviously a reading only on one setting, and I have found on this one that, as you've just seen with the Timegrapher results, it's certainly not 0 seconds per day as it says there, but the other readings are pretty much of a muchness. So, but the timing, having been tested after a full wind and then wound again, is sort of settling down. So I'll show you a picture of that shortly. So that's that. You've got the plastic case with the foam padding, and then of course the watch itself. So we're going to scoot in close and have a good close-up look at the watch now. So looking at the watch itself, we have got a black leather strap with black stitching and genuine leather Seagull, as you can see there, which is the manufacturer of this tourbillon movement that's in there. That has a stainless steel deployment clasp, which is branded Brigada, and then of course we have the watch itself. And if you look at this dial, and you particularly like watches and you've looked around at a few, you'll notice that there is a very definite nod to Breguet with the design of this. It's very similar to a Breguet tourbillon model, and obviously that's where they've taken their inspiration from for the design of it. Very sort of old-fashioned with the Roman numerals and the blued hands. They're not heat blued, but they're a very nice blued finish nonetheless. And then of course the tourbillon at 6 o'clock there beating away, looking absolutely gorgeous as it is. And the dial is kind of hard to tell on screen, but it looks, in some lights it looks white, but it's actually a kind of silver textured finish. As you can see, it's beautiful. It's really nice. And the case, stainless steel case, which is quite thick as you can see, has a ribbed pattern around, all the way around it, in between the lugs and all the way around both sides, which adds a little bit of interest, I think, because there are quite a few with just plain sides, and they're nice enough, but you know, I think that just adds a little bit of interest for a side-on view. We flip that over to the back, and you can see we've got a screw-down case back with the various markings on there, Brigada, Tourbillon, and 5 atmospheres, water resistant, all the rest of it. This is not something I would personally go swimming in or deliberately get wet. It's not a screw down crown or anything like that. Anything that's marked 5 atmospheres or 50 meters water resistance is typically not actually considered waterproof, and it wouldn't really be recommended to go swimming or something like that in it. But there inside the exhibition case back, with sapphire crystal front and back, a slightly domed front one and a flat rear one, and inside there you've got the beautiful Seagull tourbillon movement with its nice engraving pattern on the back, and then you've got the crown wheel, the intermediate wheels and the ratchet wheel with blue screws to add a little bit of interest. And then of course you've got the cutaway slots there where you can view the rear side of the tourbillon in action, and I think that in itself is very, very pretty, very nice. And it's just a beautiful watch. It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, to my mind, and the reason that I chose to buy this particular one, this is everything a tourbillon should be. The dial is eye-catching enough that you notice it and it draws your attention to it, and you look at it and go, oh, that's nice, but then you're immediately drawn down to this. And this, of course, is the reason that you're buying something like this. If it's just a nice watch, it's just a nice watch. It might be a nice watch dial with an open heart or what have you, but because this is a full flying tourbillon, after you looked at the dial, your eyes are drawn immediately down to this down here, and it's absolutely mesmerizing. It's the kind of thing that you could sit and stare at, and it's just lovely. It really is absolutely lovely. So let's just talk dimensions. The watch case is 40 millimeters, 44 millimeters with the crown, 20 millimeters between the lugs, so 20 millimeter strap width, and 47 millimeters lug to lug. I believe the thickness off the top of my head was 14 millimeters. So we're talking kind of diver watch territory thickness. So it's not, although it looks fairly thick for a dress watch, it's not hugely hefty. So that's the watch close up, and of course you see the tourbillon beating away doing its thing there, which is just beautiful. I'm just going to show you a wrist shot now, just very quickly. Here is the Pole Jot alarm, which I've just finished servicing, which I'm wearing. This is a favourite of mine. I've had it for a while, and it's needed a service and some work doing. And I've just recently got that done, so I've been wearing that just now while this is sitting on test while it's running to see how the timekeeping's going. And this is, I think, 38 millimeters off the top of my head, so this is pretty much your standard gents wristwatch size. So you can see this a little bit larger, a little bit thicker. Thickness wise, as I say, it's kind of diver territory, and that one on my wrist looks pretty much okay, because I've got very skinny wrists, I will point out at this moment. I couldn't tell you exactly how big because I don't have a tape measure. I've never actually measured my wrist. I can tell you that typically with a leather strap watch, I'm on the last hole of the strap that it comes on as a rule. So that gives you some idea of how skinny my wrist is. And this, with its much larger overall layout, just to show you there, looks like so. And I personally think that that looks okay. I don't mind large watches anyway, but I don't think this looks overly large. I tend to wear my watches very, very slightly loose so that they settle in this position, because I'm not a fan of watches being worn up here. I just don't like that look. It's a personal thing. Some people do, some don't. My brother, for example, wears his watch up here, and he wears it so tight it looks like it's cutting off the circulation in his arm. And it baffles me how he can comfortably wear it like that, but he does. But, you know, as I say, personal thing. But I like them just a little bit loose, and I like it so that they settle there on the wrist joint, as it were. And I think that just looks nicer generally. And it's quite thick, as you can tell if you look at it from the side. And of course it is a 40mm dial, so relatively large. But I think it's so elegant in its own right that the look of the face, the look of the dial, draws you away from the physical size of it. And this is something that would look really, really nice under a shirt cuff as well. And it's certainly the kind of thing that's going to get admiring glances and comments. This, to me, is everything a tourbillon should be, an attractive enough dial without it having too much going on to distract you from this, which is the important thing. There it is, the Brigada Seagull Movement Flying Tourbillon, and for just over £400 UK. You saw the price a short while ago with the equivalent in dollars at the time of filming, and it's as I say, compare that to the cheapest currently available Swiss tourbillon, which is £15,000. Huge difference. Even an enormous difference between this and the other affordable tourbillon that's banging around all over the internet currently at $1,500. So you know, that's still kind of $1,000 overpriced, really, considering that uses a Hangzhou movement, which is the other movement that's available. This is a flying tourbillon with the balance wheel slightly offset. The Hangzhou movement uses a more traditional tourbillon with the tourbillon in the center as a center mass, but the whole thing still rotates the same. The principle remains the same, it's just the balance wheel difference. So that movement and these movements, you can find them for about £250–300 for the movement alone, if you look around on AliExpress, GearBest and the like. As for where to buy these, I say this particular one I got from eBay. And if you go onto eBay, search for tourbillon and narrow the parameters so that you're looking for things above about £380, because anything under that is very likely going to be an open heart rather than a tourbillon. I think the cheapest one I saw on there was about £380. And then of course there are more expensive ones. There are ones with more complications, there are ones with busier dials and all kinds of things, but this is the one that really stood out to me. But if you do the same on AliExpress, on GearBest, and even if you have a look on Amazon UK have some in the region of 500 or so pounds, some quite nice looking ones in fact. So you can find them all over the place with these Chinese tourbillon movements, and as you can see, it's very nice. This one is currently, I'm letting this go through, checking the power reserve and doing regular checks and just letting it sort of beat away for a few days and see how it settles. I will show you a Timegrapher picture in just a moment, which is the reading I took on the second winding. Speaking of the power reserve, I had read somewhere that the Chinese tourbillons really needed winding twice a day because the power reserve was very small. I can't remember where I read that, but I can tell you that's absolute nonsense. I gave this a full wind, and this lasted for precisely 39 hours and 45 minutes. So we could actually argue the fact that that's a 40-hour power reserve, as near as damn it. Essentially, it's going to last you well beyond 24 hours, which is, you know, is typically when you would wind a manual wind watch. You would either do it first thing in the morning or last thing at night. So excellent power reserve, and overall I'm just absolutely delighted with this. I'm impressed with it, I'm delighted with it, and I'm really looking forward to giving this a wear, which will happen in a couple of days. Once it's run down again, I will do another timing test, and then it will get a few days wear and another timing test. I'm truly delighted with this. As I said, this is something I have chosen and bought and paid for myself. This is not any kind of sponsored video. I wish people would throw watches at me for testing. That would be great. Sadly not. But yes, I can currently recommend this highly. I will do an update on this after a week or so and sort of see how it's been wearing and how it's been performing and how it's been keeping time, and we'll let you know. So I hope you've enjoyed this review. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.